Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering tips for writing a book. You have an awesome book inside of you. Let's explore how you can get across the finish line. By the end of this video, you will learn how to choose your book topic, how to keep your audience in mind, and how to set daily and weekly goals for yourself. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. When we think about books and who's written them, we think about those people being experts in a certain space. They took this expertise and they turned it into a book. Obviously, the easiest way to think about being an expert is to have experience doing something. Your experience could make you an expert on a given topic. The other way is to gather information and research and do interviews yourself and become an expert in a space. In essence, this whole thing is about writing what you know or gathering new information to be able to do that effectively. You don't want to be writing a book that you don't know anything about or that there's deficiencies and gaps in your understandings. You want to be the expert in a space. I think about a book that I wrote about a baseball player named Ken Kamenity. It's called Playing Through the Pain. And when I started out, I was certainly a baseball fan, loved baseball growing up, and appreciated Ken as a player, but I wasn't somebody who covered the clubhouses where he played in. It wasn't somebody who knew him directly or at all. I never met him. And I just was moved by his story and wanted to write a book. So I needed to interview a lot of people to become an expert to be able to write this book. I ended up interviewing 400 people, and that made me an expert. If I started to write the book and only talked to 20 people or 10 people or 0 people, and I just, hey, I'm writing a book about this, it would have been horrible. It would have not worked out at all. So when you think about the things that you know, maybe it's career experience, maybe it's working in a different field, maybe it's a life experience, something that you went through and overcame, learning about yourself. You either need to be an expert yourself or you need to gather the information to become an expert. But either way, there's some expertise at play, because how are you going to write 25 or 30 or 50 or 100,000 words if you're not an expert? It doesn't make sense. And then people are going to read it and say, this book is horrible, it doesn't make any sense. You don't want to have that downvote on Amazon and go under 4.0 and never see the light of day. You want to have a book that resonates and has an impact. And in order to do that, you need to be able to do the work or have the experience yourself. So many people write their books without the audience in mind, and the book suffers because of it. There's elements in the book that don't make sense or aren't really clear. The audience can be confused. You can see that in the reviews that people leave online. I liked the book, but I lost focus. The middle of the book was misguided. I wasn't really feeling blank. Really tapping into who your audience is, tapping into what their goals are with this. What do they want to take away from this? Leading with that. The writing process itself is so personal to us. It's a very unique experience. We're living this, then writing about it. The reading part is for everybody else. Whoever your book is for, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of thousands, it's for everybody else. So it's about giving away your story and giving it to other people. So ultimately, if they're the end consumer of this book, you want to write it with them in mind. If the story's about you, it's not necessarily thinking we need to make sure that I look good for the reader. That's not it. It's about being true to them, giving them the book that they need to read, not necessarily the book that you think that they should be reading, but the book that they need to read. Think about them, keep them in mind. Even though the book writing is about you, the book reading is about them. So think about the audience and think about where you can meet them, reading level-wise, structure-wise, things that are going to help them, really gather this message and be able to learn from it. When I work on a book project, I think about daily and weekly goals. What is my goal for this week? How many words do I want to write? So often when I work with authors, they focus on the page count. How many pages is this book going to be when it's finished? I focus on word count. And I focus on word count because it's more measurable, easily measurable, and because by focusing on word count, I can then break this down. If I want to finish the book in 3 months, how many words do I have to write every day, every week, every month to stay on track? If you're trying to run a marathon, and you want to set a certain, outcome goal for yourself, you set a pace. and you try to stick with this pace. Are you on the pace or are you off the pace? Are you falling behind and need to sprint and catch up? Or are you ahead of schedule and can coast a little bit? By knowing where you're at, by knowing how much you've progressed and how your progress is coming along, you can then measure accordingly. Okay, if I want to get done here, I need to do this. I need to speed up. I need to write more. Or I'm so ahead of schedule, let me pull back. But it really requires you to keep track, follow your progress, and set daily and weekly goals for yourself so you can stay on track. It's so easy when you start writing a book to put it aside, to put it down, for life to get in the way. Don't let life get in the way. Look, I know there's going to be ups and downs and there's going to be challenges. You're going to be writing this book through all of the ups and downs of your life. Over the course of a year, 6 months, or whatever that may be, you're not always going to have happy days. You're going to have tough days, you're going to have challenging days. And that's not to say that things might not get in the way a little bit. I'm going to take a couple days off from it and focus on this other stuff. It's about the fact that we make excuses for ourselves. I had a long day at work, I'm not going to write today. And then it's going to be the next day and the next day and the next day. Next thing you know, you haven't written for 2 months. You're like, oh, that book. Oh, yeah, man, I'll get back to it, It's like going to the gym. If you strengthen the muscles, you work on it, you go to the gym and work out, and you can see the gains over the course of time. If you just go once and again, you're not going to see as much progress. If you don't go at all, you're not going to see any progress. It's really about making the most of this, but it's so easy for us because book writing is difficult. The higher the challenge, the easier it is to give up. Oh, this is too hard. Yeah, I quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. And a lot of times with book writing, it's not like I quit. It's not like we actually come out and say, I quit. It's just that we put it aside and keep going on other things. Your message and your story matters. It's worth sharing, and it's worth getting across the finish line. Stick with it. Keep focusing on those daily and weekly goals, and don't get discouraged. I know how easy it is to put it aside, but the moment you put it aside, it gets harder and harder to pick it back up. So stick with it, keep going, and believe in yourself, because ultimately this story is worth telling. Something that most authors don't really talk about, but it happens all the time, is the fact that there's help out there if you need it in the writing process. I work as a book ghostwriter. I help people write their books. I help authors write their books. My name is not on the cover. Their name's on the cover. And it's a collaborative process. It's a good give and take. It's not like, I'm just going away and writing something and just bringing it back to them and there's no input. Like, I meet weekly with my clients. We talk through the book. We keep building on it and building momentum. A lot of times when I work with authors, they started writing a book themselves and then gave up. They got discouraged and they said, I can't do this myself. I don't have the time. Maybe they're running a company. They don't have the time to do it themselves, so they work with somebody like me to carry that burden for them. And it's just awesome to be able to collaborate on that level. But it's interesting because a lot of times when you go to the bookstore and you start picking up books, especially by popular people, and you say, how did they have time to write a book? They didn't. They didn't have time to write a book. They worked with somebody like me, and you can look in the acknowledgments and see, oh, so-and-so is listed as their book editor, helping me get my words onto the page. There's a lot of ways to say ghostwriter, and there's stigmas sometimes. Oh, I worked with a ghostwriter. But some of the best books ever written have been ghostwritten. So, I don't look at it as a negative thing. I think it's a matter of getting the best story out there and the best story told. It tells me that somebody's committed to writing a great book when they work with a ghostwriter or a writing coach. Writing coach is some overlaps to ghostwriting, but basically with writing coaching, the author is guiding the writing process and getting insight and support. And with the ghostwriting, the ghostwriter is handling the writing process and the author is collaborating and giving input. It's really special to be able to see these books that authors probably thought, I'm never going to finish this. This is never going to happen. And for us to build the momentum and get across the finish line together. So there is support out there if you need it. It's not to say that you have to be isolated on an island writing alone by yourself and never finish. No, there's opportunities out there. The cost can be high financially in terms of working with a ghostwriter or a coach, but there's help out there. If you want to pursue it, it's definitely worth it, and the outcomes are so great. Ultimately it helps you get across the finish line with your book, and it helps you tell the best story possible. So if you're hitting a wall and stuck, a ghostwriter or coach could be a great way to go. There's one more resource that I wanted to talk about as well. And when you think about tips for writing a book, I created a accountability course specifically for this. For authors who are struggling, who are hitting the wall, who need that little bit of guidance and input and support. It's Good Book Accountability Course, and it's available on my website, goodbookmastery.com. You can click the link below. And if you're interested in getting weekly accountability support and having weekly calls with me and other authors, definitely check it out. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.